available this evening, so I'm filling in. I'm trying to pull up the agenda. Okay, the first thing on our list is, we need to open the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we lost Rob.
Yeah,
He just went
it's
to the
okay.
restroom.
Okay. I meant just for the opening. That's
Okay.
fine.
The first item on our agenda is 40 Colonial Avenue, an AHRB review for proposed exterior changes to home, including canopy and windows. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Am I in? Okay, let me see if I can share. I'm always, every time I do this, I'm nervous about it's not going to work, but let me see. Let me see. Let's see. Okay. Okay, can you, do you have the screen up? I mean, can you see my image?
Yes.
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 Yeah, okay. All right, good. So yeah, it's a pretty straightforward little project. We did phase one a while ago. We did sort of a somewhat extensive renovation to this house. And now let me just set this a little, give me a second here. Let me just set this so it cooperates. Enable scrolling. I want scrolling, right? No, I don't want scrolling. So this is the property, on Colonial Avenue. Did you see the context there? Just across the Colonials, just across from Cabrini Nursing Home entrance. Like I said, we did a little renovation work. We did a wood deck and we did some alterations inside. And now we're coming back from some bits that we didn't complete. This is the house. We were proposing a canopy over the entry. And then also sorry, I should have pointing with my finger and I haven't doing that. Reworking some windows here that relate to both the master bedroom and the master bathroom in that case. And that's really it as far as the exterior of the house is concerned. And here's just, some context photographs and so forth of the house and of the neighborhood, the adjacent properties. Looking up Colonial, it's the house on the corner of Colonial and South Lawn. Across the street, up the street. This is the as-built survey showing the phase one alterations. It's current, in other words. So it's just related to bathroom renovations and enlarging the windows on the outside. In fact, they're relocating the bathroom, the master bedroom window to the bathroom, and a window that we intended to relocate from the living room to the master bedroom and part of phase one, but it never happened. So this is, like I said, sort of just continuation of that project. So here's the existing elevation here, showing the small window in the master bedroom and a small window in the master bathroom. This is all existing. Everything's existing here. And then here we're putting in a large sort of picture window with two casement windows on each side and relocating that window that you saw for the master bedroom to the bathroom. And then here is the proposed canopy over the entry. Side view of that canopy. There's side view of that canopy here. Pretty straightforward. This is details of that canopy. It's really just some sort of custom metal base plate and cap connection, and then fairly conventional.
Now you there?
And that's really it. I mean, other than I should say the column would be stained the dark gray of the house. It wouldn't be cedar color. I don't know why I included this. This is the interior. elevations of the bathrooms, which you presumably are not that concerned about.
Not our,
And that,
our purview.
not your purview. It's not, yeah, exactly. So that's really it. It's really just the windows and the little canopy. So that's really it, and it's showing you sort of what it will look like, and that's the detail,
Dan,
the canopy there.
Dan, what actually triggered, is this just straight, this is just pure AHRB?
This is AHRB.
Okay.
Yeah, AHRB, yeah, exactly. That's that in that category of your bailiwick, as they say.
So just a couple of questions. The windows are going to be the same style and finish as the existing windows, the additional windows?
Yes, in fact, they're the relocated windows, so you can see, and it will be painted. Everything will be to match. Sorry, let me see here. The existing windows in terms of the white trim and the black. Oy. Yeah, it's meant to blend in with the existing, and obviously reworking the siding as needed, so it will all match the existing house. Because these currently, I guess, this trim is the old trim painted, to match the siding, so it'll match the existing the previous phase one renovation of this house.
And the entrance is going to have a similar roofing material, columns?
Yeah, it's a flat roof, so it's just an EPDM piece of EPDM, so there's no visual component to it other than, the metal edge, which will be again to match the color of the house, whoops, the gray of the house.
Thank you. So do the board members have questions?
So it's really, yeah, you don't see the roof at all, it's just essentially a flat roof. Pitched enough to drain, obviously, but
I think it looks great.
It looks like an improvement.
yeah,
Dan, any issues? No? Okay. Are we prepared to,
I have a resolution written.
please?
All right, so, whereas the applicant is seeking AHRB approval for renovations to an existing one-family dwelling. The property is located at 40 Colonial Avenue, whereas the AHRB is familiar with the project site and has reviewed the application in accordance with the AHRB, Chapter 300, Article 4. Now therefore be it resolved, the AHRB of Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based on the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application is approved, and the application specifically refers to the plan set that was submitted as part of the application.
Are you asking for public comment?
No.
Okay, just curious, about the process. So, I thought it says public comment. Not that I want to, but, just the process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I make the motion. We have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
hey, that was about the quickest ARB planning board meeting I've ever had.
You were first.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Have a nice evening. Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is 11 Lyman Place, a continuation of public hearing for proposed approval of final plat for subdivision, AHRB, and site plan approval.
Good evening.
Christina?
I'm going to use Zoom. Just. No.
While you're working on that, as I recall from the last meeting, we had some open issues regarding the final plat. Is that still an issue? Has that been resolved?
They've submitted, yes.
So yes? So there are no technical issues that this couldn't go forward at this time? Okay.
We can jump right to that, and then I'll go back over the other items. We have submitted our final subdivision plat. We received the approvals for the curb cut locations. And
Christina, could you just speak in the mic?
yes. I said that we submitted our final subdivision plat, which reflects the current footprint of the houses. We also received approval for the curb cut locations. So tonight, we'd like to ask you for your approval on that. And we also have revised plans that I'd like to go through with you.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So this is our current site plan. One item we were asked to address was the condition of the wall in the back. Along the southern property line, there is a 6-foot-high stockade fence, and there is a low retaining wall. And we added a note on the site plan to say applicant to assess condition of pre-existing masonry retaining wall and to make any repairs necessary in compliance with building code in like-kind material and structure. I just wanted to show you some images some photos that we took of that area where we know the wet retaining wall is located. If you see the stockade fence here, this is the southwest corner of that stockade fence that goes all the way across the property line to the southeast corner. But you can't see the retaining wall on the property. And this is why we went out and took a look at it. We had to go to the other side of the property and look through 10 Manor Place, which is the property contiguous. And if you look at this photograph on the left, you can just barely see that wall and the 6-foot-high fence above. So it's about 30 inches high on one side, and then the other side is really hard to see, but we think it's around 3 feet high. So we feel that I hope you'll accept that note that we have on the drawing because we will be looking into it, but I just wanted you to be aware of what we know to date, but we will look at it at a later date when we are on site. The other condition we took a look at. Oh, well, I just wanted to show you photos of the hedge that exists. There's a forsythia hedge, and it's almost 7 feet high, just under 7 feet high. Wraps around, goes all along the eastern property line, wraps around the front along the street line. I just wanted to let you know that it's in really good condition, it's very mature, so we really feel it should stay in place and should serve as a screening, even though it's forsythia. But I also wanted to show you on our site plan, we have treated the edges of the front of that driveway with a native juniper. There's an image there on the bottom. And that's going to help soften that driveway, which is, it narrows towards the front so that when you're going down the street, you won't get the full impact of the wider driveway. We also changed our streetscape just to make sure we had an accurate height of 3 Lyman Place. I just want to show you the photographs. I think this is the way the house looks is seen from the street, Lyman Place. So we didn't actually go on the property, which is why it was hard to get the correct height. But looking over the gate, it's one of these houses that has the second floor and the roof line. And then as you turn the corner, you have more height on Luzanne Road. But I want to point out that right across the street, you can see these 2 houses from 11 Lyman. There is 8 Lyman and 16 Lyman, and both of these have full 2 stories. One has a two-story with a gable and a third floor, and the other one has a hipped roof, 2 full stories. So I feel that the design of these houses are very much in the range of heights and shape and style that exists on the street. We have one house that is on the Lot 1 house, has now a gable roof and has the second floor up in the roof line with shed dormers. We have a wraparound porch in the front and also a porch in the back. And the Lot 2 house has a hip roof, full 2 stories. Also has a porch in the front and one in the back. I'm showing you the sky exposure diagrams because the Lot 2 house was changed this go-around, and then therefore we had to put the new design into the sky exposure diagrams, which, fits within that, those constraints. These are the elevations of the Lot 1 house, which we presented last time, showing the wraparound porch in the front, the shed dormers on the side. There's a bay window at the dining room. And then on the other side, again, a shed dormer. And then in the back of the house, there's a porch with a small 2-story projection and a smaller gable in the back. This house will have a standing seam roof over the front porch and clapboard siding, composite clapboard siding.
Also,
Throughout.
which I think we had requested, I think you did, you sort of tried to break up and animate this east-facing or the
On lot,
or the west.
on lot 2.
On lot 2, okay.
I'm getting to that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, yes. I also provided the floor plans you requested. So you can see, this is still the Lot 1 house. I just wanted to show it to you the way we designed it, to make sure there are jogs, the wraparound porch. We made a lot of changes, completely redesigned this house, Lot 1 house, to make it very small. It's only 2210 square feet. On the Lot 2 house, we made changes this go around. We introduced a lower roof line so that we could actually break up a wall on the west elevation and have a different roof configuration. On the other wall, we have a bay window, and then we have a little roof canopy over the door to the garage. There's a porch in the front, one in the back. And these are the floor plans. So by taking that chunk bite out of the second floor, we went from 2,710 square feet to 2,600 square feet. Our color scheme, we have white clapboard on the Lot 1 house with a silver standing seam roof, but a pale gray fiberglass roof at the top of the upper roof. Lot 2 house has a warm gray standing seam roof, but it has a shingle siding. It's a composite siding, and it's hard to show this in color, so I brought a sample of a house that we renovated. This house here on the right in Hastings. It is it has that. This is a siding that we chose for the Lot 2 house. This is the color. And on the left is an example of the composite clapboard that we selected for the Lot 1 house. These are just the 3D views that we had shown previously. This is the aerial view and the streetscape that we prepared. So you have, different shapes of roofs, some angular, gable, but different porch shapes. So when you get to our houses, we have wraparound, lower porch, and then gable, and then we have now on a hipped porch, hipped roof. This is our final subdivision plot showing the matching the current site plan that we have. And I just brought along the civil engineering drawings in case there are any questions. So I guess I forgot one thing. We also, it's hard to see, but on the front color, we also added this little jog to that front hip to just accentuate the entry to the house on top, on the porch.
I think it looks good. We had correspondence from a neighbor that raised what I would seem to me a fair point, I think easily addressed if you're willing or if it works, which was whether or not the driveway, I understand you need a certain amount of space to park the two cars. But this question of whether or not the throat, the actual throat and curb cut could be narrower than, I think you're showing something like 14 foot, I guess it's 14 foot 8. Whether or not that couldn't be a narrower lane to reduce a little bit some of the asphalt and the width of the curb cut on the street.
Funny enough, I had a driveway like that, and it was 12 feet, and it would never seem wide enough. That's why I made it this width.
Because I
personally.
I have a narrow one, huh?
And it depends on the length of it, I think. It's not that long, but I think the problem is this, at this point in time, our plat plan is done, and I'm not sure, you know, it would take a lot of little changes and drawings to change it. But, you know, the reason why it's important is that one car has to come around the other car. So if you make it too narrow, and I did that study and brought it to the meeting, but you have to make it work. And if the driver's not long enough, you can't quite get around the other car. So I'm counting on the little more width for the curb cut for that reason.
Okay.
Does anyone else on the board have questions?
No.
This is a continuation of the public hearing. I'd like to open the public hearing. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Would anybody like to speak to this application?
Good evening, board. Long time no see. This time I spared you the letter. I figure I've been writing 3-4 page letters to all of you, and thank you all for your kindness in just reading them and listening to our concerns. And I'd like to also thank my neighbors, many of whom who couldn't be here today, and just having their voices heard. So I spared you the letter because I ultimately believe that there isn't anything net new I have to say on this. It's not that I agree with what's being proposed, though I do agree that a lot of progress has been made. Today I did see a lot of positive things. And, I would like to just highlight that my concerns remain that these two homes do not adhere to the context of our neighborhood. Essentially, if you were to approve these, you'd be approving the number 1 and number 2 largest buildings in this neighborhood on single lots. I do know one of my neighbors has a relatively larger home, but that's a double lot, so that's kind of the one thing I would like to point out. And then the other is that I understand that the code doesn't have any requirements on the height of the buildings, but these two would also be more or less the number 1 and number 2. Though I do think 8 Lyman is fairly tall, so maybe top 3. So it's a matter of, does the top 1, 2, or top 5 in a neighborhood full of 20 homes, does that adhere to the context of the neighborhood, or does it push away from what it kind of needs to be? And that's the argument that I have before you. I also think, and again, personal opinion, and in a way, this is a forum of a little bit of architectural tastes, right? It's not just code enforcement. That some of the side facades could use a little more breaking up and making them a little more interesting. I do understand it's 2D drawings, so gray, white, so it's kind of hard to see it in kind of real life, but that's just the other concern that I would like to highlight. And look, it's been a contentious few months. I've come here, I made points, I've gotten angry at times. And I just want to say to the developers, I'm here to kind of work with them on the issues like the forsythia. I get it. It's 7 feet tall. It works when it's springtime and summertime, but come wintertime, I will see straight through that. And, just 14 feet from where the boundary of that border is, there's going to be a 20-foot kind of wall that I've been looking at. And I simply cannot build it on my side, given that my property is 5 feet below. And I would have to come before this board for your, permission to build a 11, 12-foot kind of wall to kind of have the privacy for which I've actually purchased my home. So in a way, I'm just trying to, keep what I like about my home to the best of my ability, knowing that they don't necessarily owe me anything. The code doesn't require anything, and you're the only arbiters of, what is contextually right in this neighborhood and what will be maybe not just kindly suggested, but maybe required. Or if it's something that they want to work with me and we go, I don't know, partial on a cost of like a board that I just can't build on their side is all that I'm asking. So, I do understand their difficulties, inspecting the retainer wall. Like, we're not the Blair's Witch project, right? Like, they can knock on our door. You're welcome to come in and take a look at a wall that I would argue is leaning 6 feet over. And to me, that's not architecturally sound. The code doesn't allow cinder block building. So language that says we will repair it in kind simply just, my question too is like, is that binding enough language when it comes to the retainer wall itself that, they would replace it in kind if it requires repairs? But I'll tell you, it needs repairs and cinder block isn't going to do it because that's just not what the code requires. Look, it's been 8 months. I would argue it's been a pretty long road, but I think what the board has kindly requested and gotten back in return has been fairly limited. We've seen real change really about a meeting ago. And I would argue maybe what we've seen before us could have been something that we've seen meeting 2 or 3, right? Look, I don't like repeating myself, and I feel like I've been doing it for 6 months straight. So I just wanted to thank you again for the opportunity to be heard, for looking out for our interests as residents. And, I would like to extend my thank you to the developers to do something with 11 Lyman Place, which is in disrepair and it needs something being done. I just want the right thing kind of done, not the first thing that we can do done, right? So those are the points I have. Thank you again.
For the record, what is your name, for the record?
My name is Sarkhan Parlak, and I live on 3 Lyman Place.
Thank you.
Christina, could you put up on the board the sheet of, you have one sheet in particular that has the elevations. It shows the 2 new buildings in comparison to the rest of the streetscape. And with the building footprints and.
The streetscape.
Yeah. Because just to the last speaker, I feel like the current designs, when I look at that sheet, which I guess Christina's putting up now, I feel like when I look at the elevations of those 2 buildings, the 2 proposed buildings, to me now they really do look like they are in scale enough with the adjoining buildings and even are more animated and interesting in some ways than some of the other buildings on either side of the street. So, and when I look at the building footprint plans, the fact that the 2 buildings are now actually somewhat not just different shapes, but different sizes, those building footprints to me look like, I can find some other building footprints here that are smaller, but I can also find some that are bigger. So I'm not really convinced that these are the number 1 and number 2 biggest buildings on this street anymore. So we really have tried to listen to the neighbors, and I think that the developer, especially in the last several meetings, has made a real effort with Christina to accommodate those concerns.
If you want a summary, we went from 2,700 square foot houses with 2-car garages, and we reduced them. We reduced the height, reduced the footprint. We actually eliminated a garage altogether because they were looking too similar. We also created a very wide setback on the neighbor's side, so 16 feet forward instead of the 10-foot minimum.
Right.
So, and that really was because of the getting enough space for the second parking spot on the driveway and making sure we have a privacy barrier. I really have thought hard about what kind of houses could fit here, you know, when we did our redesign. And, you know, you have houses on the one end of Lyman that are quite small, with dormers up in the second floor. You have different designs, but they're all around 2 stories high. Most of them have second floor in the roof line, but across the street, you have at least 2 houses that have 2 full stories, and then an attic or a 3rd floor. So there's a variety, and I don't know how you decide which houses are the right ones or the wrong ones, but I really was trying to find the right compromise between what I thought could fit here and what our clients' goals were.
Yeah, I'd like to echo Rob's comments that I really appreciate all you've done to help mitigate some of the concerns, both our concerns and the neighbors' concerns. So thank you for that. This is still a public hearing. Would you like to speak? You got up a minute ago. Sorry.
Daniel Burgess, 52 Luzerne Road. I just want to take you back a few months when it first came to the planning board. You know, while it was like being pulled up, you talked among yourselves and said change is coming to the neighborhood because it's a, you know, it's an old neighborhood. It's a beautiful tree-lined street neighborhood. You know, it's like described like that in the vision plan. And you know, it's really the importance of maintaining the character of the neighborhood, right? And I guess my question is like, you know, do you feel like it does fit into the neighborhood now? It's like from your initial impression when there were like, you know, 2 big shoeboxes presented, is there enough change to make it fit into the neighborhood? When you look around the village, you know, and that's the difficulty with like an old village, right? It's like newer buildings are going to be bigger than the buildings from the 30s that were built. And you see that all around, right? Like newer buildings, the massing is just so much bigger than the existing houses. And maybe that's just the way it is, and that's, you know, we have to accept that. But my question is that, you know, does it really fit into the neighborhood? And, you know, when the vision plan was made, there were also residential design guidelines, and were they really followed, and especially in terms of the massing? A couple of other points. It looks like 5 trees are going to be removed and just replaced with 2 trees. You know, it seems like in the backyard there would be enough room to plant some more trees. You know,
They have to meet the replacement
They do.
thing in any case, right?
Right, they do.
Okay.
In terms of the hedge, yeah, you know, it's like you see the privacy barrier between the houses and the privacy area to the other side. And, you know, to be honest, it's insulting to my neighbor, Serkan, that, you know, it's like what is afforded to the other neighbor is not afforded to him. And also, you know, that kind of hedge, I think you all know for this year, grows pretty quickly. And, you know, I'm sure it's like, you know, really going into the property and it's going to be, you know, really cut and trimmed. And, you know, if you want that space, so, you know, I would, you know, strongly suggest that you require the same privacy rights that are given to the other neighbors. The wall in the back, you know, the wall is also to the east, so I think that's also important that that is being addressed, not just to the south. Last time it was discussed that with basements there might need to be, you know, rock blasting, which is very disturbing to the neighborhood. And I'm wondering, has that been addressed? Has there been any more testing on what kind of grounds there is. Does any kind of rock blasting need to be done? And I think that's it. Thank you for listening to my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, so Robert Barbera, 66 Luzerne Road. There's one comment, it's on house one. I'm not sure if she can pull up the photo of the frontage of house one. To me, I don't know if you want to call it the awning or what's over the door, the entrance door, it looks very strange. It looks like the house was cut in half. Now, I think house two, it tapers on both sides. But to me, I'm not an architect, but it looks like someone took a saw and cut that house in half. I just don't find that awning, you know, aesthetically pleasing. It looks very strange and odd. So I guess that's one is a design comment. Two is, I did bring up the last time about the basement. I know Daniel mentioned as well. I believe we only see floor plans for the first floor and the second floor. Is there any plumbing or bathroom that is planned in the basement?
Not yet. Is that all your questions for now?
Well, that's a question. And then the third is, the ceiling of the attic looks very high on house two. So just wondering, is that, quickly become or can become a living space? So I'm not sure what the plan is for that large space in that attic that appears to be, a regular height walking space up there. You have our attics were all kind of crawl space attics, and that looks like a very high attic from the, at least from I can tell, from the basic roof line of where it meets on the second floor up to the third floor on house two.
Do you want to speak to the basement and attic issues, Christine?
We're making plans right now to finish the attic.
Sorry, I can't hear the person.
I'll get on that.
Just, whether they finish an attic or don't finish an attic
It's not.
is interior space.
It's not our
Just-
purview.
Right, just making
Yeah.
it note of that.
But I just want to point out, the house is very close to the ground. So like the whole basement is underground, hardly any there won't be any windows. So I don't even know what we can do with that. And we did that to keep the height down. And when it comes to the attic in house two, it's about 6 feet, maybe at the highest point, at the peak. So this can't be used for any habitable space. It's only going to be storage.
Thank you.
So can the board help with answering the question, is there plumbing planned for the basement?
No, there isn't.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this application? The members of the board have anything else they'd like to address?
Can I just ask a question or repeat my question because I don't know if I.
Got it.
Hi, Serkan Parlak at 3 Lyman again. Just a question on, is the language sufficient when it comes to the cinder block, retainer wall, like in-kind repair? Like, is that, I just don't know, if it's found to be not sufficient, can it be repaired when it comes to the code, or does it need to be rebuilt? Just wanted some clarity on, is the language strong enough that an action would have to be taken and that the replacement would be in line with the code?
Well, let's
So-
find out. Dan, is there a trigger point where you'd have to repair so much of the wall that it would have to conform to the new code?
The new code, but if you're just doing a repair, you could replace in kind.
And
If you're replacing
and I
the
guess
whole
the
wall,
question is
then you
how
have
much?
to use
Is
the
it,
material
I guess the question is, how is it determined?
Yeah, is it 25%? Is
We
it?
are proposing to have as a condition of approval an engineers to inspect and provide a report regarding the condition of the rear retaining wall as well as any necessary improvements to said wall.
Okay.
And the report will be reviewed by the village engineer.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so
That
much.
That should
Yes.
address, yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No one online? I move, any of our technical team have any issues that still need to be addressed?
I do not.
Okay. I move we close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Valerie, do we have resolutions?
Yes. All right. So the first resolution focuses on the site plan and final plat approval. So whereas 11 Lyman is seeking final subdivision approval for the subdivision of the lot and site plan approval for the construction of 2 new one-family homes. The resolution specifically identifies the dates of the public hearings as well as the site plan public hearings, which dated back from February 1st, 2024 to June 2nd, 2024. Whereas the planning board carefully examined and considered the materials, and it lists all the materials that have been submitted. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board adopted a negative declaration back on May 2nd. And further be it resolved, the planning board finds that a proper case exists for requiring that a park be suitably located for playgrounds and other recreational purposes, so that the applicant will need to pay for the parkland, reservation of parkland fees. And then be it further resolved, the planning board of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the finding and reasoning set forth below, the application for final plat approval and subdivision approval is granted subject to the following conditions. And then it refers to the approved plans. It specifically refers to that the final plat needs to, before any signatures, that all outstanding stormwater and engineering concerns are dealt with. Also, that all outstanding consultant review, legal fees are paid, and that the engineer is to inspect and provide a report regarding the conditions of the rear retaining wall as well as any necessary improvements to said wall. And it specifically notes the final expiration of the final plat approval will expire within 90 days of the date of the resolution unless granted an extension. And that is it.
I make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Wait, we gotta just, hold on.
Hold on, oh, we have the AHRB,
Yeah.
right? Sorry.
All right, so.
This one's quicker.
Right, so just real quick, 11 Lyman is seeking AHRB approval. The AHRB is familiar with the project site and the vicinity, and now therefore be it resolved, the AHRB of Village of Dobbs Ferry hereby grants AHRB approval subject to the following conditions, and the approved plans specifically refer to the latest May 22nd, 2024 plans.
I make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Now you're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next on our list is 235 Palisades Avenue, continuation of a pre-submission conference for a proposed subdivision of existing property. Welcome, Patty.
Good afternoon.
Good evening. Patty Steinsteiner from Gotham Design, working with Nina and her husband Edward, and I think this is fairly straightforward. I think we are still a pre-submission, and we're seeking tonight to be having a public meeting at the next meeting, but we'd like to make sure that we've got all the right stuff, which I think we do, but that's not my decision. So I think we showed you most of the stuff last time. Nice street, great houses, great character. This is a couple of shots from the street of the lot. It's to the south of the existing house. As you look through the bushes, you can see that it's actually a fairly nice level lot. It is steep in the area, but there's a good place to build a house. We had a subdivision of this years ago that the two lots were merged. And effectively what we're doing is restoring the second lot. It gives you a context map of the area. You can see that this is a relatively large lot. It's more than twice the size of required. The required lot size is 7,500 net. And this property is over 21,000 square feet. And we have done, I think, what we were asked. Well, first is this is just showing you the site plan concept, not an actual plan that's proposed. We've shown that we have, plenty of room for Cultex. We have not done tests that we feel would be done by a person who came up, if ever, who wanted to build a house on the property. The house would obviously be designed, and if they couldn't make it work with a larger house, they'd have to build a smaller house to meet the code with storm drainage. So I don't think that's really what our issue should be. We're fully compliant with all of the setbacks and all those requirements. Our impervious coverage and our building coverages for the hypothetical as well as for the existing meet the standards for both of their lots. So it's not like a problem where the house is big and do we have the adequate lot to support it. We're allowed 25%. We have 20%, 20.4 on one, 21.66 on the other for the building. And we're allowed, I think what it is, 45%, 44%, something like that. And we're 33.2% on one with impervious and 40.4 on the existing. So we're under on both of those. Really quick, just showing, this is a, topo, guess what, we're in Dobbs Ferry. It's not level, it's not flat. So it's a house, the house that we imagine someone would build would tuck down in, much like Nina's existing house does. We did have a new survey prepared with the topo and the tree locations and the walls and all of those things. We had a steep slopes analysis done that showed what the actual steep slopes were on the site. On lot one, we have a gross lot area of 11,400. There's 2,005 square feet between 15 and 25%, which requires a 25% reduction, which on lot one is 501. Over 25+% is a 50% deduction that deducts 446 square feet. So if we do the adding, subtracting on those, we have a 10,453 lot where 7,500 is required. On lot two, it's a 11,155 is proposed for the lot. Again, we have more 15 to 25 there, 6,190, which has a 25% deduction, giving 1,548. And then the over 25 is 747. With 50% deduction is 374, and taking those off results in a 9233 square foot lot. So I think we meet all of those requirements. And I think this is probably my last slide, which shows the plat map, which we would have to have signed, and once it's been approved and everything. I did have a question for Valerie, but maybe we can do that off about location maps. I get fancy with location maps. Is the one on this sheet adequate, or is this a little sketchy? Yes to sketchy or yes to?
Oh, no, I mean, you said wanted to meet offline on that. I'm just looking up the comment that we had on it. I think it was just the idea of just to show the neighboring properties, that's all.
Right.
And if there's any easements or anything.
Yeah, there's none, so I think this accurately represents everything
Okay.
that exists, and yes, that was my last slide. I can talk more, but I have two other things on the agenda, so I don't think you need me to.
Thank you. Dan, are there any issues? Have you had a chance to look at this? And
Yeah.
Okay,
I think it's good.
okay, Valerie?
Ready for a public.
Yep.
Other than
I'm-
what,
I think it's complete enough for a call for a public hearing on it.
okay. And it hasn't gotten to the point where there are any engineering fees, right?
No, no, and I'm fine with, leaving the stormwater design to site plan when it
When
eventually
it
comes
happens,
in.
right?
I'll just note that you did note that the system is adequate for 100-year storms. I'm just wondering how you determine that. If you
I did-
Do any calculations?
We've done a lot of construction. I did calculations, which don't mean anything, right? We know that. So I basically looked at what the porosity in that area had been on other houses that we had done, kind of averaged it, and then I said, okay, how big a house, taking that, and we figured what that area is, and I think we show 10 Cultex. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
that's a lot.
That's fine. That'll be looked at during site plan and more
When
detail.
they come in.
I think that should work. Now, in other municipalities to our north, who get very careful with this, what they have us do is on the plat map, actually cite the section of the code that requires site plan review. Their argument is that that demonstrates to anybody who would be, say, coming to buy it, who would be being told, this is a building lot, you got all the approvals, not so fast. There is a process that you'll need to go through with the village in citing that. If the village thinks that that's a good idea, we'd add that to the plat map.
It's up to the board.
Well, it sounds like a good idea to me, but
Yeah, I mean, if
defer
it
to you.
potentially alert,
Yeah.
future buyer.
But nobody's surprised.
Well, I'm aware of it when people call me up and they say they bought this piece of property and they just found out that they don't have an approved house. They have to go and do all these things. And I said, yeah, that's the process. But, I think it's good if they understand it before they buy.
Okay. Any members of the board have comments?
No, I don't.
What's the next,
Set a public hearing.
Call for public
Okay.
hearing.
so when you have to call for do we vote on that? Or do we
Yeah,
just call for it?
yeah.
Okay, so we're going to call for a public hearing at the next meeting?
Yeah. And we did a mailing for this. Do we need to do another mailing for public hearing?
I
Yeah,
thought once,
it's supposed to be for a public hearing. We have to talk to the office about that.
I thought once the mailing was done at the beginning of a project, that you didn't have.
Nah, see, no, we have an issue with that.
Okay,
It's for the public hearing, it's got to be specific
Okay.
on the date and all that, so.
okay.
But, so you will have to.
Yeah, I'll check with Dan. I mean, our form doesn't actually do that. And
I know it's something we're working with the,
I'm sure you are, 'cause I know you know what it needs.
Yeah.
Ours is about as general as you could have. There's a thing.
yes.
It might happen.
But I mean, I think just for the board's information, it's a lot of the public anticipates getting that initial letter out, knowing that something's coming in for pre-submission conference, so we don't want to take that away. And so we're working to potentially have a second notification.
Okay, and I've just been reminded we're supposed to vote on calling for a public hearing. So I make the motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is 5 Chestnut Court, continuation of pre-submission conference for proposed exterior renovations, including new deck and retaining wall. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Miguel Sostre. I'm here representing Ben Carlson for his property on 5 Chestnut.
Okay.
This is our second meeting. I had made the revisions to the drawing set and submitted it to the building department. There were a few comments on the footings and things that they wanted to have placed on the drawings, and that was taken care of. The board, the last time I was here, had asked that a letter from the HOA Association approving the construction of the wall and how it was going to be built, and partially the dead men that hold up the wall extend onto the HOA's property, and I submitted that letter. And there was a request from engineering that topo be provided, but it was granted that we could just provide top of wall and bottom of wall height to show that it wasn't going to be over 4 feet. And that was added to the drawings. And the other concerns that were raised, I believe, were minor and were addressed with the building department. All calculations were reconfirmed, and the zoning table adjusted to reflect that information. and that's the short of the long of it.
Okay.
Do we need to call for, can we waive this project? Is it
Yeah.
small enough to waive?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we were gonna suggest it.
Okay. How do the board members feel?
I'm okay with it.
Okay. Anthony, anything on your end?
No, we're fine with the plan as it is.
Right, and I have a draft resolution for AHRB,
Okay.
if the board wants to move forward with AHRB and not site plan.
Okay. So I move that we waive the site plan for this project. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Valerie, do you want to do the? HRB?
Sure. So again, the applicant from 5 Chestnut Court is seeking AHRB approval for a new retaining wall at the rear of the property and walking surface and trellises. Whereas the AHRB is familiar with the project site, and now therefore be it resolved, the AHRB of Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for AHRB approval is granted, and it specifically refers to the building permit set that was submitted.
I make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Right.
So with that, I can submit directly to the building department.
Correct. Right?
Say what you said.
I can submit directly to the building department.
Yeah, you
with a
could
public
submit
hearing.
2 sets of plans for construction.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is 4 Summit Terrace, pre-submission conference for proposed exterior renovations, including stormwater system, retaining wall, and deck stairs. Do we have anybody here or online? Oh, I see. Thank you.
Okay. Does everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Let me share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we can.
Okay, great, great. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Greg Ketchapoli. I'm the engineer on the project here at 4 Summit Terrace. Representing Michael Frey, who's the owner of the property. The purpose of this project is to create some usable space for his kids in the side yard here, create access to his deck from the lower yard, and remediate and mitigate some stormwater issues that he has in the front, with stormwater flowing off of Summit Terrace onto or towards his garage, and sometimes even infiltrating the garage. So what I'm proposing here is to replace the existing stormwater structures that are already on site. We have a catch basin in the street that's collapsed. Here's a picture of it, right? So it's completely not functioning. So the water just zooms right by and goes towards his garage. We have a slot drain in front of his garage that we're gonna replace. We have a drain, and then another drain here at the corner by his front door that we're gonna replace. And then there's already an existing storm outlet down here in the rear yard that we plan on reusing. I did propose some riprap, a riprap outlet, which I believe was a comment on the memo, which I did receive today. Didn't have any time to address any of the issues, but we'll certainly plan on doing that. Or not issues, comments. He had a few comments regarding the potential design. The side yard, we're proposing 2 retaining walls, 1 wall at the top closer to the street. The walls are going to be approximately 4 feet and 5 feet max at the bottom. 4 feet max, top and bottom. The proposed I did make sure that the proposed footings for our deck stairs are below the footings of the wall, so they're structurally sound, and no tree removals, no wetland, no floodplain, and that's pretty much the summary of the project.
Do I understand that the outlet for the stormwater is just going to be sort of dumping it down the hill? Is that correct?
So it currently discharges in the rear yard, point discharge down the hill, and there is no riprap or anything there, so we plan on providing a new riprap outlet for the stormwater. I mean, it's the existing conditions, so it will improve with a riprap outlet. I think there was a comment in the memo about configuration of it, which we're certainly willing to speak about, maybe to give it a longer path, so that it doesn't exactly point discharge anymore. But yeah, essentially it's going to discharge it's got a flared end section, discharges into 6-inch stone, which kind of settles out the velocity, and then it overflows out of the riprap pit and continues to do what it's always done.
Dan, obviously this doesn't meet our modern stormwater management
He is,
best practice.
he is dumping it on his property.
Okay.
It's not like he's putting it out to the street or anything.
And because it's an existing condition, he doesn't have to conform with current best practice? I mean, somebody lives downhill from him.
I actually suggested in my memo a couple of things. So there's a lot of water that comes down Summit. I know
Yes,
they have
there
a
is.
problem there at the front of the house. They have a 6-inch pipe currently shown. I actually questioned if, that's really sufficient in a large storm to pick up that water so that you kind of, eliminate that problem in front of the house. Maybe if you're gonna put a pipe in, maybe consider putting a larger pipe. What's gonna happen is in a large storm, that water's gonna run past those catch basins anyway. They aren't very big. What you're proposing, 18 by 18, I think. So I may, I would suggest looking at that and trying to capture that better, maybe. And maybe a larger pipe. And look at the outfall. I mentioned the level spreader in my comments. Maybe something that can distribute it a little better. Even though you have the riprap, it'll kind of still act as a point discharge. If you could spread it across some of the contours in the back there and carefully place, where that's going to come out, so it doesn't really affect anyone. But that water is going past that house, down that slope.
That's right.
One way or the other. So my suggestions were really to, maybe enhance this a bit and, maybe something to look at. The other thing was, I think you had 300 some odd feet of impervious coverage increase. We couldn't figure out where that came from. I don't know if it was the walls maybe too that you were figuring.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was top of walls.
Well,
that's where
is it a stone wall system, like an open joint stone wall, a dry wall?
That's right.
Okay,
that's
I
right.
don't think we'd really consider that as impervious
Okay.
necessarily. We'd probably only look at like the concrete pad at the base of your wood deck stairs. If you do reach 100 square feet or more, you have to, show us some stormwater calculation how you're mitigating that increased impervious area. If that is the case, you could probably easily show it with the gravel behind your walls as kind of a detention system. I don't think it's really an issue, but just to check all the boxes, you should take a look at that. But I would suggest looking at that system and making sure it's really going to take care of that problem.
Also, have you contacted the DPW about that stormwater grate? I mean,
I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think that's in the road. I think it's in their
It's
property.
not,
oh, it's,
not-
act- it's,
yeah,
oh, I see.
I don't think
it's a
there is
unique
any,
situation. The
stormwater.
street goes down that way and.
Is the-
I mean, it's taking all of the water from
Yeah.
Summit.
Yeah.
It's not, to
Getting
pin
it
it on the
back.
homeowner to mitigate it would be a lot.
There's no village stormwater management at the end of that street. Got it, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting the homeowner should mitigate the stormwater
Right.
on the road. What I'm suggesting is, look at the sizing of your system to solve his issue. If you're gonna put a pipe in, put the right size pipe and really try to make sure that water doesn't bypass, because there'll be storms that's not gonna handle. And it's still gonna bypass and end up, in front of your garage.
Right.
So is that something that you want to look at regarding Anthony's comments on your sizing?
I mean, to come up with a volume that's coming down that way, I already looked at it and kind of did a watershed analysis, and I came up with 6 inches is okay. So I'll send that to him, and he can look at it and tell me
I
if he
don't-
feels different.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily interested in
Right.
reviewing that. This is more just a suggestion to make sure you're sizing the pipe.
Yeah, I looked at it, so
Okay.
I'm comfortable with it.
All right, what's the next step with,
It's up to you. I could waive it, or we have a resolution for AHRB, and we could just have Anthony look. If he changes the stormwater, we'll have him review that again.
are the board members comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay, so we're waiving site plan and doing an AHRB resolution, okay. So I move that we waive the site plan. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Valerie?
All right, so for Summit Terrace is seeking AHRB approval to construction of deck, stairs, and retaining wall. So now therefore it be resolved, the AHRB of Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for AHRB approval is granted, subject to the following, and the approved plans specifically refer to the April 29th, 2024 plans.
I make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
You too.
Next item on our agenda is 219 Palisade Avenue, pre-submission conference for the proposed exterior renovations, including porch and deck replacements, pavers, and stairs. A lot of things happening on Palisade.
I love.
Didn't take long for Christina to get out of here.
All right, okay. Sorry. So sorry.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cemre Dursoy with Architecture Dursoy. I am presenting the renovations on behalf of homeowners Julia Galanternick and Martin Salata. I will start with, on to the existing photos. So what we're proposing, 219 Palisade is a Central Hall colonial house built in 1914. And on each facade, there is an element that was added on the south face. You will see that there is an existing porch that has a concrete deck and concrete post that holds the end, which has some water damage, and the deck is not in great shape. So we're proposing to replace this, take the cement deck and replace it with a wood deck and a new pergola. That will be cedar, unpainted, natural cedar. And on the north side, there is this addition, which is off of the kitchen inside. It's kind of like a breakfast nook that was added maybe 20 years ago. Also has the paneling has some water damage on this end. And on the west side of the property, we have this extension that was, I believe, it was an open porch at some point that was closed up with paneling, and again, the windows don't close very well. It's leaking and it's very cold in the space. There's damage on the paneling, so we're proposing to replace the windows and the cladding and put in better, like, energy efficient windows, insulate the walls, and replace the cladding both on the sunroom area and this existing kitchen extension, as well as building a new porch. And one other, I guess, while doing these renovations, the other idea was to be able to connect the kitchen to the garden. Right now, there's really no access to the garden area from any one of these, not even from the porch right now. So we're proposing to add a staircase from this extension on this side that would be tucked on into the side of the wall here. And also, we are proposing to reduce the footprint of this porch by taking out the concrete post at the end at the southwest corner and making it a smaller porch, and adding some steps to the garden. So I guess maybe I'll go to the floor plans. This is the topo survey showing the steep slope calculations for zoning. This is the existing site plan that's showing what we're proposing to remove. And then the proposed site plan. So the deck, the porch is on this side. This is the front entrance. We're not really doing any work here. Existing walkway is staying. Existing driveway to this garage studio is staying. We are proposing to replace this walkway on the north end with new pavers, and we are proposing to add some pavers in the sort of flat areas on the western side of the house that are set with like loose pea gravel in between. These are the materials that we're proposing. The cladding will be, the new cladding that we're proposing is wood cladding that's has this charred finish that's silver. The windows are going to be aluminum clad, most of them that are in this cashmere color. They're Marvin windows in their Ultimate series. And the The windows that we're proposing that are on the existing brick building are actually going to be wood windows that are painted to match the rest of the windows. And for decking, we're proposing to use also a natural larch, and then for every other, like the pergola and vertical, cabinets or anything like that, we're proposing to use knotty cedar. And for pavers, we're proposing sandstone and filled with pea gravel in between at the joints. And these are the light fixtures that we would like to use. That are, I can show where they're going if you would like me to, but sorry, I don't know why all these dots are showing up on the PDF, but I hope it's legible. And so these are the existing elevations. The dashed lines indicate like where we're removing cladding, really. We're keeping the footprint of the existing additions. I mean, other than the porch that we're proposing to reduce the size of, like we're not changing any of the framing on the additions. We're taking off the existing wood paneling and changing the windows. So the building footprint is staying as is. So these are those elevations. And more detailed, like breakdown of the proposed windows. So as I mentioned, like the French doors that we're putting in the living room, like which is on the existing brick facade on the west elevation, and this door that's in the basement that are also on the existing building are matching the sort of Mountain profiled, and they're painted to match the rest of the windows. The ones that are on the additions, we're proposing to use casement windows that are, higher efficiency ratings and better views of the river. And they're going.
So you're not planning, just to clarify, you're not planning on matching the Munson design on the rest of the house?
On the extensions, we were planning to use just sort of simpler, cleaner lines that, with the intent of basically making these additions actually more blend in with the landscape around it, rather than matching the brick house, and let the brick kind of stand out, the original building. Because I mean, I'll just go back to.
You have that one sheet, I'm looking at one sheet of elevations that has all of your pieces clipped on.
The building elevations?
It shows the 4 elevations with the, yeah, maybe is that it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the proposed, yeah.
Yeah, A201.
So the idea is that these pieces are meant to look, not like they're just part of the house, but kind of new clipped on elements architecturally.
Yeah, and the materials that we've selected are more like sort of the landscape around it. So kind of the wood of the trees and the color, sort of reflecting the landscape and just picking up on that, as opposed to, like trying to replicate the original details of, this house, which are, quite beautiful and then, I feel like that allows the sort of stand out and sort of emphasize your historic house a little better.
So is the dark areas,
Yeah.
are they dark because you're showing what's different, or?
Yeah, I'm showing what's different, and I think,
And that's not actually, it's not going to be dark.
this is the material. So it's like a silvery tone, so it looks like that.
I see.
So it's kind of like a tree bark a little bit.
It's going to be vertical.
It's vertically, yeah, it's vertical cladding, and
And then,
Does it look modern?
yeah, I think it's going to look, the windows, you know, in this elevation makes it look like they're sort of a modern,
Yeah.
which I'm okay with,
Mhm.
personally. And the roof materials, are they all flat roofs of the new
They're-
pieces?
The additions, yeah, they all have roofs that are actually more in good condition, so we're not proposing to do any work on the roofs, but they're flat. The original house has the terracotta roof, and the additions have sort of a rubber layered, and we're just putting a fascia panel in the front to hide the gutters. And the downspouts locations we're not changing.
The slatted wood privacy screen, what is that?
Oh,
material?
that is in the, you can see on the bottom right corner there.
Correct.
It's basically at the end of the porch. It would be like cedar slats, like these, sort of thin. So you
Okay.
can kind of see through it, but, you know, gives a little bit privacy because it's
So
right on.
it's not
the
a
street.
solid?
It's not solid.
Okay.
Not solid. It's just like these kind of stacked together
Mhm.
with 1 inch apart.
And it's pretty much the same color as the.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is sort of showing like weathered cedar.
Right.
Initially, it's going to be a little warmer and, you know, browner, light
Mhm.
brown, but then over time, we're going to let it silver like that.
Okay. Thanks.
I see this is, this plan requires site plan approval.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have any questions before we
What is it that
maybe call for a
triggered,
public hearing?
what is it that triggered site plan approval in this case? Jan, sure.
On this one, it was 10 foot out, I believe. It was. It's 10 foot out or 10 foot up, it requires site plan approval.
Okay. I guess, yeah, we should call for a public hearing then, right?
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to bring up regarding this before we do that?
Yeah, I'll just mention, the only thing we had in our memo was something that came up at a staff meeting, was just like the way the impervious areas are calculated under the code. I think they didn't include the gravel areas, but I believe the compacted gravel areas are included under impervious, but there's usually a percentage accepted by the building department. So that was really the only issue, we just noted that. That's something you should probably go over with Dan. And if it does go over 100 square feet, it could trigger some stormwater concerns, but that could be easily addressed, you know, with the gravel and everything they're putting in, so.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, what the percentage is, because, yeah, we don't want to actually trigger any, like,
Right.
stormwater management, so we're willing to also
It
reduce.
has to do with the zoning definition of impervious area, and it specifically mentions like compacted gravel.
Compacted material, yeah.
So that was really the only issue we noted site plan wise. So.
Right, and we also had one little thing on the front yard setback. We just want her to take a look at the measurement again. Although it's a pre-existing nonconformity, it's just that we just want to make sure the zoning table is correct.
Yeah, I think that's a graphic error. If you look on the topo survey, it's just where I put the dimension, looks like it's set in, but that is actually the correct dimension of where it's the closest to the front. I can show you, I think graphically, I kind of shows in the wrong place. This
Right, so I
dimension.
think just you can fix it graphically next time. That's really, it's just correcting the record.
Yeah.
Are you going to have to remove any trees for this project?
No.
All right, shall we call for a public hearing at the next meeting?
Yes.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
May I
Thank you.
ask something? Is it, because the windows have actually a really long lead time when we order them, is it possible to have any kind of pre-approval for windows, or do we have to, just because like we can sort of address all the other concerns while we waiting for, just to sort of to be able to sequence the construction? I don't know. that a possibility? I just wanted to ask.
No. I mean, I said, but I mean, I'd love to I mean, I can't imagine, yeah, no. I think you'd be safe, because there's no mechanism.
We can't guarantee
It's a
that.
big number to have go wrong.
To gamble on.
Yeah, no, I know, it's, yeah, and it's something that's not, we can't return, so I just wanted to check. But I guess
Right.
also, like, for the public hearing, it will be a review by incorporating comments from the public, right? So we have
Of
to
which there
send-
may be none, like, I don't know how much interest there is in this from your neighbors and so on. It may be a really, really, sometimes these public hearings are really, really short, and we probably would have a resolution, don't you think, ready to go? So I'd say there's a very good chance, given the scope of this, that you'll be out of here at the next meeting. But we have to go through the formality of having a public hearing, and maybe somebody will freak out and want something changed. I don't know.
All right. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So, do we-
The next item on our agenda is 0 Northfield Avenue, pre-submission conference for proposed single-family residence on existing lot. Do we have anyone here to speak to this?
I think Christina was gonna, this is hers, right?
Okay.
I think she was gonna do it online.
Hi, everyone. Are you at 175 Northfield?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to bring up the drawings. Hold on. Okay. This project is a new 2.5-story single family home. It's just under 3,000 square feet, and we're planning to put it on a site. I'm going to go right to the site plan first. Where our plans is to have the house on the low end of this steep site. The house is as close as we can get to the front of the property so that we can minimize the amount of excavation and impact on the steep slopes. So we have the house on towards the north, and then a turnaround and entrance to a driveway on the south side of the house, and the whole house is tucked into the grade. We have 16,425 square feet of property. But when you take the deductions for steep slopes, I'm going to blow this up, hold on. We're at 9,144 square feet. We will need a waiver in order to have the coverage that we have. Because if you take the building coverage based on the net area, we're over by 3%.
I don't think that doesn't need, the building department has been interpreting it based on the gross area.
Gross?
Yes.
Well,
So,
we weren't sure, so we did the calculation.
right, so you made it based on the gross area.
I see. So if I take it based on the gross area, we're probably fine.
That's correct.
Yes, so we wouldn't need a waiver.
So
We
they'll
meet
be
all
able
the
to ZBA.
setbacks.
No, they will not need a waiver. Dan was just explaining that you're calculating the gross impervious, the maximum impervious coverage based on the gross lot area versus the net.
I see. I thought we had used the net on the previous project, so we decided to do it this time. So, okay, if that's not the case, then
Yeah,
we'll-
there's, because of the ZBA, because of a prior ZBA or recent ZBA decision.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, okay, we'll go back to using the gross area for lot coverage. So this probably meets all the zoning regulations. We did a calculation for prevailing setback, and we chose the lesser of the average of the existing front yard on the properties on each side of this. And on each side of one of this property, we have one house. That's what this is about. We have one, let's see, one is only 5 feet 3 inches from the property. Another house, 177, is at 3 feet 8. They're very close to the property line in the front for the same reason, because the houses were built towards the bottom of the steep slope. So we were able to do that average, and then there's a condition where you can add 10% plus or minus 10%. So we had a 10%. So we ended up with a setback of maximum 12.75 feet. So going back to the site plan, if you see this dashed line in front that says front yard setback, that 12 foot 9 inches is based on that calculation.
Right.
So we really tried to make the house fit so that it meet the zoning code in all respects. We have a streetscape, and I'd like to show you, and that's this slide here. Well, let me reduce it a little bit. Just showing there is a variety of homes, most of them 2 stories, most of them with garages facing the street. And on one side of Northfield, they're all tucked into the hillside, and that's not the case on the other side. We're doing the same with this project, where the back wall of the house is tucked in. There is no window. There are actually no windows on the first floor, and only on the second floor. And the second floor overhangs the first floor in the back because of the expensive retaining walls. I'm going to show you the plans for this. We did our steep slope calculations, and I would like to have Michael Stein, who should be on the Zoom, discuss that, because there's a lot of civil engineering work and some retaining walls in order to make this house fit on the site. But before I give this over to him, I just want to describe the design for the house. This house is tucked into the hillside. We wanted to have the garage face away from the street, so you wouldn't see the garage doors facing the street. So you come up the driveway, turn into the garage. You come up through the basement. There's a small office area and bathroom, and then you come up through the house. The main first floor has no windows because on I think it's up against the hill, because it's all underground, but all the windows are on the other side. Open kitchen, dining, living room. And then on the upper level, the second floor, also very few windows against the hill. Most of the windows are on the opposite walls, and we have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath layout. The house is designed to get solar panels on the one plane of the roof. It's more of a modern design with a carport facing the street, where you come into that carport and then you take a right and into the house. And then the main entrance is down here on the first floor to the right of the garage. Over the garage is the deck and the outdoor space for the house. Most of the windows are facing east and south, so hopefully we can get close to the requirements and targets for passive house. On the west elevation, there are very few windows, mostly because of solar heat gain. In the south, we have much more glass and very few windows on the north. So that's our design for the house. It's just under 3,000 square feet. And we have a landscaping plan that we just started to take a look at how we might do pockets of landscaping. We have to remove a few trees. And then we started our color scheme for the house. Combination of Trespa panels and stucco. So that's our introduction to the project. I would like Michael Stein to talk now if he's on. Michael? I hope so.
Yes, I'm here.
It's just that it's a difficult site, and it would be nice if you could just explain how the stormwater system will work. That would be great.
Right. So one of the things that was, again, important on this site is the disturbance of steep slopes. By keeping the house all the way up close to the front property line as much as possible and really minimizing and limiting the grading that was going on around the house. It's not looking at having a big lush backyard. It's actually keeping in very tight and keeping in mind that the slope of the property comes down. So we did our best to minimize the disturbance of steep slopes on the site. With that said, there's rock outcroppings throughout the site. There's ledge rock present on the site. And so in order for us to do a provide stormwater mitigation, it was not possible to do infiltration. So what our office did was we prepared a pre and post stormwater analysis looking at the existing conditions and comparing that to the proposed conditions. So what we had prepared was a design for a sealed attenuation system that would be located under the driveway. We have approximately 40 linear feet of 30-inch diameter solid wall HDPE pipe with multiple, there's 4 orifices going out of the system itself and then draining into the village's existing storm drain system within Northfield Avenue. So in order to do that, we'll have to put a new catch basin in close proximity to the existing where the driveway comes down currently and extend down the street from there.
Does a stormwater management system like that conform with village code?
Sure.
We designed it for the 110 and 100-year storm events. So in all storm events, we're equal to or lower than the rates of runoff in the existing conditions.
Yeah, I mean, where infiltration's not possible, we usually do it, detention tank with a metered outlet, so to speak. So, we're generally fine with the design as it is. We're still kind of looking at the calculations. We'll get final verdict on it, but in general, this is fine. It's connecting to an existing catch basin in the road. I just want to take a look at where that is going and be sure we have no issues with that drain itself. But this idea is perfectly acceptable.
Okay. I don't recall seeing it before. That's why I asked.
Yeah, most people try to do infiltration where you can do it. Yeah. This is common, actually.
Okay, thank you.
We just received the comments from the village today, so we're gonna have to go through them. I know there might have been a little confusion about the driveway because we have one plan that shows cars in the driveway, but that was just so that we could find out if there's enough room to get the cars to turn into the garage. So we'll clarify that.
And actually, if I may share my screen, I can put right up we had already put together a turning analysis showing maneuverability into the parking spaces.
One thing you may want to, speak to, so the board is fully aware that, so this is sharing a driveway now with the house next door, correct? The 173. The driveway for house 173 crosses in front. At least that's the way it seemed to me on the plan. So that would need that would be a shared driveway access. So there would need to be easements and so forth.
Is that correct?
Yes, I understand there is going to be an easement, and I will need to follow up on that. I don't know if Michael knows anything about it at this point in time, but it will be a shared driveway.
So again, we put together just turning templates over top, just showing the access coming into the coming into the garage, and for both sides, for both the left and right garage spaces. Just that basically demonstrating that it is accessible.
So they'll be able to go forward down the driveway to meet Northfield Avenue?
Yes. This is showing going in right now. We're not showing anything as far as coming down, but you're the same way they're able to pull in, they'll have the same ability to be able to pull out and back out.
The other concern we just had with the one driveway was, you know, the tightness of the site during construction. You know, how that's gonna work with the existing driveway. So we just asked that maybe some kind of staging plan or something to address that. That was one of our comments.
Mallory, do you have concerns?
I just had a couple, I mean, our memo just had some concern. We raised the question about the parking and just the depiction on the plans. And then we also raised a couple other things dealing with ridge heights that they can take a look at and just clarify. And then the same thing with the prevailing setback, that we just wanted documentation noting that the prevailing front yard setback is 15.25 feet. So this is stuff that they can address at the next submission.
How about you, Dan?
The other thing, Valerie, I don't know if you said it, it didn't meet sky plane exposure.
Oh, yes. I'd like to address that. We will have an encroachment into the front, and there's a sky exposure plane on the front of the property. And that is only because we had to push the house so close to the front property line. This is one sky exposure plane, and I think I don't have it tonight. We'll bring it next time.
I think you just passed it.
Yeah.
What's that there?
Oh, yes, here it is. The south elevation. Do you see how much of the house goes into that sky exposure plane? We have no choice really. If we want to keep the house in this location and to avoid even higher retaining walls, we would have to bring the house into that sky exposure plane in front, which most of the houses on next door
Don't
property
conform. I'm sure.
don't conform, yes.
Do you have a study that shows the alignment of the houses? Did I see that?
For the front setback.
The front setback, yeah.
We do, and we did a study of the front yard setback and the addresses of the houses on the street, but we chose for the prevailing setback, the average of the front yard of the properties on each side of the lot. And we came up with an average of 15.25, but then the code, and we went over this with Dan Romer, at least Karen did, that you can plus or minus do 10% of that setback. So we did a plus 10%, ended up with 12.75, and that is the setback we used to determine the front edge of the house.
Thank you. Do members of the board have questions or issues they'd like to bring up?
No.
Okay, what's the next step?
So if you're ready for a public hearing or pre-sub again, however you feel.
Probably call for a public hearing, I would think.
No?
How about you, Valerie?
I'm okay with
Anthony?
calling for a public hearing.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Sure.
Who are
Right.
you?
I apologize, I just speak up, but I thought this was an opportunity to voice my concerns.
It would be at the public
Be at the public hearing next week.
hearing next month,
Right, that would be
No.
next month.
because we're just being introduced to the project now.
So I move we call for a public hearing next month.
July 11th.
July 11th.
Do I have a second?
I'm sorry.
All in
second.
favor?
Aye,
Thank you. So,
sorry.
and you're welcome to write a letter if you have concerns that you, of issues you'd specifically like to look at, or,
Yeah, because we read all those.
Thank you for clarifying. And just one second, time, letter. July 11th.
it'd be 7.
7, yeah.
Yeah. You're welcome, thank you. Sorry you sat here.
Okay. That's for Lauren, but that's all mine.
Okay.
All right, do you need anything from us or anybody here to get you ready for next month? Christina?
But we know what to do. We have our work cut out for us. Thank you so much. We have the letters from the village consultants we'll address, and we'll be prepared for the next meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye.
The next item on our agenda is 55 Myrtle Avenue, pre-submission conference for proposed exterior renovations of existing home, including replacement of front porch and rear terrace.
Good evening, Patty Steinschneider, Gotham Design, here representing the Angers. This house is at 55 Myrtle. I think if you went over to try and find it, you probably saw that there were a bunch of 55s in different numbers. It's a driveway that serves a group of different houses. It's an interesting neighborhood. The Angers have owned the house now for several years. They've already done a lot of work on the interior, but they want to do a complete redo of the exterior. That said, they're not looking to make changes to the actual structure other than removing the lanai roof on the back and redoing the way the roof works in the front for the porch. This is the neighborhood. You've got that kind of windy drive that comes up this way. The house actually has a flag that goes down to Myrtle, but good luck ever trying to drive down that. Not an issue here. This is the, I think, the caretaker's house that's next door. This is on one side of their house, and this house is on the other side. And it always kind of amazed me with these houses that there was this little row of cute little, well, some cute, I think, the Angers will be cute, houses on the street. Here are just some of the others. This is one that's currently getting some work. They all, you know, they're nice small houses that sit in well to a very private area, which is actually kind of cool. This house is nice. And this is the subject house. This is the Angers. It's got a number of materials on the exterior that kind of makes me feel like I'm up at one of the, you know, yards, and I can look at the differences between the brick and the stone and the different sidings all on one. So one of their ideas was to try and unify this and tie it together and to change the color character of the house dramatically. So all of the siding's being removed. The roof is going to be redone. All the windows are going to be replaced. So all of those will be new. The front porch that you see here, the left side of that, that's all going to be gone. And the new porch will actually pick up the roof above and come down. So it'll tie the house together a little bit nicer. These are pictures just going around the house. Not a lot happening on the back. You can see the lanai roof that's over the brick, which is on the north side of the house. So it's kind of, if you wanted to, you know, do molds and things like that, it's really nice, but it'll be nicer to be removed and getting some air circulation and making that area nicer. You don't have to go through much of that. This is the drawings of the existing conditions. I've got a blow up of the existing front, which kind of shows those materials, the massing. Again, the massing of this is staying pretty much similar. This is the back of the house. That's that roof that will be removed. When they did work on the house previously, they made some changes, including the installation of this, the sliding door. So the terrace is being removed and redone. so that will make a little bit more sense. This is on the left is the existing site plan. On the right is showing the change, basically, of that front porch and the terrace on the back. This is showing that there's a large tree in the front of the house that's going to be removed. That tree has certain issues already. It was split at the bottom. It's a large tree, and it has an interesting lean towards the house. So I think safety suggests that it be removed. We would be proposing, obviously, at least meeting the code with replacement with several trees in the front and maybe 1 or 2 large trees or trees that would become large in the back. That's on the landscaping plan. Just typical stuff for this, these things. This is the lighting plan showing where the fixtures are located adjacent to the doors. All the lights are, dark sky safe. This is the elevation of the exterior, the changes that we're making. This is the front that is changed, and when I put it compared to what's there now, I think you can see pretty easily that we're keeping a lot of things that are, but making some subtle changes that I think will make it look nicer, get rid of the shutters, making, larger windows that are actually, egress safe. The existing windows in the bedrooms are not. So that's something we wanted to bring up to code. There's a kind of curved bay in the front. We're removing that, making it square bay, larger windows, bring more sense of openness, redoing the front door with a little bit more of a modern feel to it. This is the side of the house showing how the roof extends from the existing roof out over the porch. This is one of those ones where I know that we made an application for a site plan. I don't know that we actually hit the 10. We're close to the 10, but we're not 10 further than the existing. So I'm hoping that we can move quicker on that. Details for how the porch is being built. And then the materials and the coloration of it. I've got them here if you guys want to see them. Interest in that? No interest in that?
It's hard to tell. I mean, I find it hard to. What is it that's triggering site plan review for this project?
It was the 10-foot roof. It was wider than 10 foot.
Yeah.
Wait, what was?
The front porch.
Yeah.
The front porch,
Wider than 10, it's new, but it's shorter than the existing front porch. But it's up to you guys. So we're going dark colors. We're actually trying to get, because I'm so enamored of magnolia, it's going to be the smooth. It's not going to be it's going to be a smooth surface. They just can't get the samples of that. This one is the iron, which is kind of a little bit too green, blue. The magnolia people are working with Hardy Plank and have come out with really cool ones. We're going to go hopefully for the midnight soot, if we can find that. Doug and Diane living in the heartland. That's the Roma Bio that we're proposing to put onto the brick. It's a lime slurry, so it's not a paint. I think it's a nicer way to do things. This is the iron ore color of the windows, which I think works well. We've done that combination before. And there's a black roof, black windows, black gutters, black pants, right? And the only thing that's a different color really is the front entrance area, which is a, whatever you would call this, a kind of tannish gray, which will bring your eye to it and I think work nicely.
You should, but these color renderings are not in the set that you submitted, right?
They should have been.
I don't see them.
I didn't find them either.
I kind of asked in the office about that.
Okay.
I didn't really get a great answer.
That would be good. Those would be good to see.
Yeah.
Although it all looks fine from here, but it's hard to visualize the materials without 3D views.
Want to go around and look closer?
No, that's good. I trust you.
I don't know about that. So I don't know if I probably do have, I have the renderings that show all that kind of stuff.
You could just send those along and then Dan can distribute them or.
Yeah. So yeah,
Liz can distribute them and we can.
Yeah, we did larger renderings to kind of show, how the colors work together.
Looks nice.
Yeah, it looks like a big improvement to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, the neighbors seem pleased.
Is this one where we had a letter supporting it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to make
I
of
was like,
it.
what?
Yeah, it got sent and I was thinking, oh.
Text
boy.
was a little similar, but,
Yeah, it did look.
There was some coordination there, but that's okay.
I was gonna ask to waive this one.
for site plan.
Yeah, for site plan and approval for AHR, or however you feel on the AHRB end.
Yeah, it seems right.
So I do have a resolution for AHRB approval if the board wants to move forward. The only thing is it doesn't refer to any of the renderings. So we could just say, you could approve it, and then once Patty can send me and the building department the renderings, and I'll work the reference to the renderings into it. So.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
That'd be great.
So we're going to waive site plan, and we're going to do the resolution for AHRB. Okay, so I move that we waive site plan on this project. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the property located at 55 Myrtle Myrtle Avenue, excuse me, is looking for AHRB approval for exterior changes. Now therefore be it resolved, the AHRB of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasonings set forth below, the application for architectural review approval is granted subject to the following conditions, and it refers to the approved plans dated December 18th, 2023, and it will include the renderings as well.
I make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Patty, just for my own curiosity, it looks like that was a estate at one point, that large manor house on the hill and the gatehouse, and these have been sort of been filled in the middle?
It's, I mean, it's kind of, I have to be a little careful because we just got nice letters of support. The house that's up there is phenomenal. That was Ron DeRusso's house. He did a lot of great work on it. Really, I mean, it's got a front door that's like this wide, beautiful burl oak. It's just an amazing house. Needs some, you know, I think the people who bought it are looking to do things over time. It's got some very intricate glass door glazing that, with this beautiful lot, wouldn't it be nice to be able to actually look through the glass and see the site? But even that caretaker's house has a lot of really cool interest to it. And I guess at some point, you know, when those big houses weren't perceived as being great back in the 60s, somebody said, well, let's take the driveway and we'll subdivide. And I wasn't around, so this one you can't blame on me. But they basically have, look at Dan smiling, the houses actually front on Myrtle, but they're all served by the driveway. What I guess you could blame on me is the fact that we brought in the subdivision for Ron's, which got the back parcel of the property subdivided off, and there's a house being built there.
Right, we reviewed that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Well, it's a neat house.
Little history lesson. All right, the last item on our agenda this evening is 443 Broadway, pre-submission conference for proposed renovation and alteration of existing multifamily building. That's you also?
That is me also. Patty Steinsteiner, still from Gotham. This is a building that I've been wanting to kind of make something happen with for a long time. There were three buildings in Dobbs that kind of having that feeling. This was one. The other was the one on Cedar Street that had like popcorn gravel on it. That they did a beautiful job turning into a building that looks nice on the street. And the other one, I don't think it's hard to guess, is the one on Palisade Street that's on that corner that looks like they never quite finished the house, and they were thinking of building a brick house at one point, but didn't get quite around the corner, and it turns into something else. So this, I'm glad to see that Mr. DeValla, who is no longer here, he left before. So that's, and one thing, correction in Valerie's thing, I'm not contract vendee. This is just, Luigi has owned this now for several years. He had other things he was taking care of, got those done, and now he's ready to take this one on. We've done a lot of pre-work on it, just talking with contractors, understanding what we're going to have to do. The hard thing about it is that the existing roof is really shot. This house was put together in a kind of interesting way. It used to be a house in front with a garage in the back, and a guy who is a priest, but it was kind of unclear what his religion what connection he had to what church and all. He owned it, and he conducted services in what's a kind of basement space, which the rumor is that it had to do with like sacrificing animals and stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah, really, something would be good to keep the spirits out.
Finally, a
so-
Coltech to collect something other than water.
And so a lot of the construction on it when you go over just to try and measure it and figure out where these stairs go to and how you get into one unit, it's a cacophony of spaces. It makes very little sense. So the only way we saw to really do this is to take the whole top roof off, build a new roof on it, and reorganize the spaces and provide. We're still going to have the front door be the front door for that one apartment, but all of the other units will come in off on the side with a new stair tower that'll be enclosed instead of open. So you'll actually walk in, you can walk up the stairs and go into the apartments. Right now, you kind of climb around on the balconies, and they're these old, not really that old, probably from the 60s, but steel stairs that have started rusting out. For a long time, there was a board hanging on the front of the house. I don't know, Dan, if you encouraged that to be removed before it fell on someone, but it's gone now. But that just exposed the interior of the structure to weather. So getting this to happen soon, I think, would be good. It's right on the corner, Rochambeau and Broadway. It's right, it's, if you're looking for context, normally I'd be thinking, well, I'm in a heavily populated area. I'd like to do a streetscape, but what I'd be doing is doing an elevation of the high school and an elevation of Sacred Heart with the house in the middle. It's a house that feels like it's in an interesting spot with a lot of traffic going around it. It's in the Broadway zone, which allows it to be used as multifamily.
When we moved the zoning line some years ago, was this affected? Was this part of the?
This was the house. What they had done, that board, I forget what it's called, Land Use Committee or something, that they created the Broadway zone, and it was pretty clear everything on the other side, opposite the school and the synagogue and all that, was the Broadway zone. But the synagogue and the church and the school, those are all EI zone. And so what they looked at was Rochambeau, and they had this as MDR1, but it's 443 Broadway, and it already was exceeding the number that you'd be allowed to have in the MDR1. So
we moved the line, right?
You made it so that this house, it's the only house on that side of the street in that section that's in the Broadway zone, but it's the right, I think it's the right thing. So we're.
Are there people residing in it now?
Yes.
Yes.
All of the units are occupied. There is a lot of conversation of how we're going to handle that, because that's not ever terribly easy. But Luigi owns a good number of buildings here in town. He's a very experienced landlord. He's a good landlord. I've had people who work for me and friends who have lived in his buildings and stuff. He's considerate of their needs. So I'm sure he's going to try and work something out fair. When we came first in to try and deal with this, the first step for us was going to the zoning board. And we applied for 5 variances. 4 of them were granted. So we got granted for the setbacks. These are existing conditions. Everything was existing except for impervious, which we were looking to go from 72.5 to 74.7, where 60% was the limit. That was to better facilitate the driveway and the walkway on the site. We got to an interesting conversation when it came to the parking, because what we're proposing is 8 parking spaces where 11 are required. And one side of me would like that we would get the variance, because then we'd be all set. The other side of me is then the village doesn't really get anything for it. So what we've suggested is that we go to the Board of Trustees and see if the Board of Trustees would consider granting pileups in the B zone. It's not a zoning district that's the downtown, but if you look at the buildings and the uses, that many of them are multifamily, it seems like it would be a really good place to be using the pileup opportunity. So if people are fixing them up, they contribute to creating better walking, better biking and things in town.
Well, it is close to downtown and mass transit.
Yeah, It is. It fits with all
That's,
those.
and that's part of the zoning changes that the village board's gonna put up for public hearing, I think, this week. They're gonna call for a public hearing on that. To
On
add
what?
To add the Broadway as part of the pilot program.
Oh, okay.
That'd be great. I
So
didn't even.
Patty, I'm a little confused about the site plan component here. Are you changing the building envelope?
Yes.
In what way?
I will get to that right now. So anyway, that variance, they held in abeyance. They said if we don't get the PILOPS, we can come back, get the variance. But I've also found something which I think is interesting, and I'll show in a second. This is the survey of the property, which showed originally, 6 parking spaces. We kind of configured it around so that we'd
Patty?
be able.
You're not showing anything.
Oh, I don't know why.
We thought you were waiting to unveil it.
I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Good.
So that's not in our submittal, right? Or is it?
No.
That black sheet.
No, the parking space.
Rectangle.
Let's see.
Oh, here it is. Proposed.
Do I need to rejoin?
That's right here.
Is this, are you showing something about the parking?
Yes, I was.
So I think right now, the ZBA, you already presented to the ZBA, and the ZBA said you can move forward with the potential payment in lieu of parking. So I don't think at this point, like this, if you make any changes to that or what you propose to the ZBA, you're gonna have to go back to the ZBA, because that's in the resolution.
Well, which makes sense. The only thing is, if we can actually meet it. Yeah, I guess I got kicked off from that one.
You mean actually provide parking on site?
Yeah, I think we can get 10 spaces.
So if that's the case, then I would resubmit for next month, right? Because I didn't, right now, we don't see that on your
Right.
parking.
It would be something, I mean, I want to show it, because you guys might say it doesn't make sense. Why am I still on and not showing up? Well, okay. Nope, wrong one. Okay, that was back where I was, and I can go from the existing slide. So this is where I was showing parking. I don't know if there's anything before, but it doesn't matter probably. This actually was just showing where those existing setbacks are that we got the variances for. And this was the parking plan that we showed the zoning board. We since, my concern was, given the fact that we were already exceeding coverage, I was thinking, well, if we try and do more with parking, we were going to end up increasing it. But there's actually a lot of wasted space with the existing parking, so the alternative would be to do a 10 parking space configuration instead of 8, which would actually be a reduction down to 70% instead of what we got the variance for 74. I don't know if that's something that the board, normally we want to avoid parking lots, but either of them look like parking lots. The idea of getting 10 spaces instead of 8, and also giving the 10-foot separation of the parking to the property line, where we could do more landscaping with trees and things like that, and it might just be a better idea. So I don't think we have to go back to the ZBA to talk about that, do we?
Well, I mean, I think we have to take a look, because if you have other variances that you would need, then the ZBA might want to consider.
Yeah, this would actually be obviating, we'd be reducing our coverage, and we would be complying with the 10-foot setback. So the one thing so I think we need less. But anyway, that's, for all intents and purposes, the intent of the design and how we're doing the building stays the same regardless of the parking lot. We've got all these kinds of things. What we did, that was existing conditions. This was in the packet that you should have received, which shows the proposed plans. And what we've done is on the proposed plans, we've shown the outline of the existing, and on the existing, we've shown the outline of the proposed, so that you'll be able to get an understanding of where we're bumping around. We're on the top part, I don't know if you can see cursor on here, up along here, we're actually pulling in from it. We're taking off a couple of things that bump out right now on the house, and opening that up so that we can get more light into the level below. In all of these, you see where that staircase is, that we're adding in on the side as the entrance. And then you've got, we did the same thing with the elevations, showing that the existing are on top with the proposed in red, the proposed below with the existing in blue. We eliminated a lot of hip conditions that were some of the sources of leaks, and we've gotten better space under gables. I think has a nicer look for the building. And the other elevations facing school. So I think these renderings were in your packet?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Just one project they just. So kind of walking around the building with the existing photograph and the proposed kind of shows, you know, how we're approaching it and what we're thinking would make the building feel substantial in one way, but, you know, relatively calm too. It's, you know, it's a good-sized building, but it feels much more organized and tied together than what's there now. In this one, you can see those bump outs on the below that we would be eliminating. The other thing I'd like to do is have a conversation with the school. Their property line comes up to those brick piers. And what I think would really be nice is if they allowed us to contribute perhaps to a landscaping plan, so that we could do some landscaping on that side to give some privacy to the building, to the school. My biggest thought is, which I'm sure they won't let us do, is creating kind of a court area on the property, on the school's property, where kids could hang for lunch and things like that. Because it's kind of like a little bit of a waste of the school. It'd be interesting to have it be a place that kids would be sitting outside, visible to people driving by, and you'd see vitality on the street. So those are the elevations. I mean, obviously, I think we're premature with getting into the colors and materials, but we do have that sheet included in this. And I don't know, that is what we've got.
Okay.
I think it looks good. I personally still would like to see maybe some other thoughts about the stair tower and how that's articulated. But
Too vertical?
I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on
I mean,
it.
we're
It doesn't
trying to
really
keep
fit
it
for
really.
me either. Yeah. It doesn't really fit for me either for some.
I can't figure out exactly why. But anyway, maybe we could just play with it. I don't have any like super concrete suggestions. I don't know if it should just be
I would rather you have a concrete suggestion.
more glazed. Like, I don't know if it should be, maybe it should be either just solid, or maybe it should be
Or maybe
like really glazed, like all.
more like a Campanolio with a series of windows, the feeling that you got height.
I'm not sure. It's not a big deal. I'm just saying because I think these look good. I think it's going to be an improvement to the building.
Now, we're talking a total of 8 units, and what I'm proposing to the owner is that 2 of those would be affordable.
One of them is undersized, so you need to probably take a look at
Yeah.
your plans.
We recently, or we didn't, the board recently considered a smaller apartment on the unit, Board of Trustees on Main Street, which I think was a good step. I'm hoping that's another thing that they're looking at change.
No, they're not.
Come on, we got to get, we have to make it easier for people to have smaller units in this
Yeah,
town.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So would I need a variance for that, or is that somebody else?
Well, I mean, technically, you would need a variance for that.
Yeah,
Unless this board wants to waive it, but they would have to make certain findings on that, but it's 200 square feet less than the minimum required.
Right, minimum required now is 800,
No, it's 675 and you have 475.
475, okay.
Yeah, but Patty, you're talking about 2 of the 8 units being affordable and one of which is undersized.
Well, one of the units is undersized. We haven't defined that that's the affordable, but I guess you realize we would probably make that one of the affordables.
But I think
Logical.
that's, there's some argument for it's in the interest of the village to take that undersized unit, and you're only, you don't have to provide 2 affordable
But
housing
in-
units, right?
Under the affordable housing regulations in the code, that's the minimum size, 675. So that's not taken from, that's specifically from the affordable housing section.
So if we wanted to propose that, because and once again, I think it's in the interest of the village, is there a way to work around that limitation?
Well, they could either seek a zoning board of,
support of
right.
zoning.
Or they, or you can issue a waiver, and then there's specific findings that the board has to make in issuing the waiver.
Okay. That might be worth pursuing.
I think so. A project was proposed in Irvington last night that was trying to do all 1 and 2 bedroom units, predominantly 1. Majority was 1, and it really got torn to pieces because people in Irvington were basically saying, that's not Irvington. And I think that's unfortunate, because I think that's what we need in our future, and I think Dobbs seems to be heading in all the right directions.
Well, right, but I'm pointing out that your efficiency unit is actually going to be larger than your one-bedroom unit.
That's because we can't get light and ventilation.
So
in the
I'm
back
just
of it.
making that point. That's all.
All right.
But probably we're gonna lose tenants who, right? This building probably is pretty affordable right now for the people that are living there, right?
It is.
And they're probably gonna lose those folks, right?
Luigi's business model, I mean, Luigi's the guy who came to here, lived in his uncle's house and basically in a closet while he worked at the country club doing grounds and worked at the Grand Union stocking shelves. Saved up money, bought his first building, which is on Palisade Street, and then renovated each apartment individually by him living in it while he was fixing it up. So his perspective on the world is one that's fairly generous. And, I think he's the kind of guy who would rather have people glad to be able to live there and pay for it instead of large turnover. He has people living in his apartments for, to the point they think they own the building.
Okay.
So my perspective on this is it's an improvement, and we want to encourage this. What do we need from him to move this forward?
I don't know what you're doing with the parking or not. I don't know.
We also want to see a lighting plan as well.
Yep.
Maybe.
I thought you needed an updated survey. It's pretty.
You think that one's a little old?
And there's no stamp on it either.
Yeah. No stamp, hand drawn by probably the priest.
Somebody with a crayon.
Yeah.
And I did notice, I think it shows on your survey, that those piers are out in the right of way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what
Be
we,
addressed in any of this, and
yeah. I mean, we're gonna need, I'm hoping that this is an opportunity for Valerie and Anthony to note all of those things in what you guys write up and say, these are issues that need to be defined instead of me trying to guess which ones we need to target.
Yeah, I did a memo too.
Okay, good.
So they're all there.
So I think that's good.
Okay, Dan, do you have any issues you want him to address?
No, maybe, like I said, the parking, maybe leave a pre-sub until some of the questions are answered.
Okay.
It's up to the board, though.
Board members? I mean, I agree with Rob that the stair tower maybe could use a little help, but
Okay.
Other than that, it all looks like a big improvement to me. Anybody else?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Stormwater. Right now,
are you increasing or decreasing?
we're keeping the area about the same, but I don't think that's a good answer. I think what we would rather, I think if we're gonna go in and do a new driveway anyway, which regardless of whether it's 8 or 10, I think at that point, we're better off looking at putting in the facilities that are necessary to handle the water for the entire building.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're not, if you're putting a new parking area, a new driveway, you should address the drainage one way or another.
Yep. So-
I'm not sure what's in Rochambeau or close by to connect to. But do you have an engineer on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably have Michael Stein do that. He gets perks that I've never been able to come close to. Solid rock and good perk. So it's, he would be that. Structural is Cyrus Mandwobi. And I think that's one.
I didn't note anything specific on the stormwater in my memo. I did ask just to quantify impervious area increase or decrease, so obviously then you'll need to address it.
Yeah, I think the right thing to do is, I mean, we have a major, you might not have noticed yet, but we have this major problem in Dobbs Ferry with stormwater.
No.
I know you're working hard on it. So I think anytime we get an opportunity for a building like this to increase the capacity of on-site storage, it's the right way to handle it.
You can always go above and beyond the minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum requirements, that's for sure.
Well, it's kind of fits with everything else I do, isn't it?
When you resubmit, can you make a decision on how you want to deal with the parking, whether you're going to add the additional spaces or not?
Well, I mean, if we can get 10 spaces on the site and reduce our impervious, is there anybody thinking it looks too much like a parking lot? Rob?
Yeah, no, I mean, I tend to lean towards less parking.
Yeah.
How many spaces would you be?
We'd be having a total of 10, and our requirement is 11, so we'd be down to needing one pileup. And we actually could do better landscaping with the new.
Fewer spaces.
Well, no, with the more spaces, we get a more compact parking lot. We actually reduce our coverage by 4%. So
When you have more spaces?
10 parking spaces are more efficient layout than the way we're showing 8. So we have less impervious surface. And we have room on the side that we can do a real landscape job around the whole thing. We can make it quite nice.
So that seems like the way to go.
Yeah. I think if you're comfortable, I mean, you and I both share a feeling that we don't like big parking lots, so.
All right, shall we continue this pre-submission conference to next month?
Unless we want to keep talking.
No.
We're all tired.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Thanks,
Interesting
Patty.
project. I move that we adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?